Gyokuro is a type of Japanese green tea that produces a very unique flavor. It is shaded for 3 weeks before the harvest, and because of this, it's able to maintain a higher theanine content, which leads to an intense sweet and savory flavor. In this episode, we're going to walk you through how to prepare this green tea and what tasting notes to look out for. Before we get started, it would really mean a lot to us if you could subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for future tea videos. Without further ado, let's get started. So let's first start out by taking out 5 grams of leaves. We're going to be using the Gyokuro Sasahime today. So this is the blended Gyokuro from Mr. Sakamoto. It's made with a combination of the Saimidori, Okumidori, and Yabukita cultivars. So I'm just going to go ahead and open this up. This is a brand new pack. You can see right there at the top, there's some really nice long needles. I'm going to go ahead and take out 5 grams. I'll just kind of put it out in this dish here so you can get a better look, and then I can put it into the teapot. So here's going to be about 5 grams. If you have a scale at home, this is definitely the best. Otherwise, you know, after preparing this for a while, you can really kind of just eyeball it, take a little bit less time in your preparation. So, you know, this looks like roughly 5 grams to me, maybe a little bit more, but that's not a problem with Gyokuro because you really want more flavor. For this, I'm going to be using the black Tokoname Kyushu. Let me get a better shot here. You can see that there's a built-in clay filter right there. So this might be a problem when you're working with fukumushi or deep steam teas. These are like the super green teas because it might clog. But with Gyokuro, since the needles are so large, you don't really need to worry about clogging as much. And also, you know, metal filters might slightly interfere with the flavor of the tea. So you want to use clay as much as possible. So this is an all clay teapot here. So I'm going to go ahead and just put the 5 grams of leaves into the teapot. And then what I prepared now is a water heater filled with 60 degrees Celsius water. So that's about 140 Fahrenheit. I'm just going to go ahead and pour this in. And then we're going to wait 2 minutes for that to brew. So the reason you use 2 minutes is because the leaves are tightly rolled into these needle shapes, as you can see here. And in order to release the flavor properly, you really want to make sure that these leaves open up completely. So normally with sencha teas, which are a little bit not quite as tightly rolled, you only need 1 minute, but with Gyokuro, you really want to give it the full 2 minutes to make sure that you're really extracting all the flavors. So 2 minutes steeping time for Gyokuro, slightly lower temperature will make sure that you don't extract too much of the bitterness. You can see probably already the leaves are starting to open up here. Really nice. Start to see. Normally you don't want to move it around too much. You kind of want to leave the tea undisturbed because if you agitate the leaves too much, it's going to release some of the bitterness. So 2 minutes is almost up. Just going to leave this back here. You can leave the top on to kind of keep some of the heat in, to keep it warmer for longer. This, you know, rubber fixture right here, you may have noticed, that's not so important. It's kind of good to keep this little nose from breaking. So if you were to hit it on a glass or something, it kind of softens the blow a little bit and makes it so that the most fragile part of the teapot doesn't break. So that's something you may want to have. I'm going to go ahead and pour this out now. I'm just using, you can use whatever glass you want, but we like to use glass for videos because then you can see the color. So this is not as green as a fukumushi, for example. It's more of this yellowish color. But that doesn't mean that the flavor is less intense, because with Gyokuro, the flavor is actually even more intense. So you can see here. I'm really getting this strong savory flavor. With this brewing in particular, I'm not sure why. I am getting more of these kind of floral taste profiles, so it's a little bit flowery. Yeah, It's a little bit light. It's fresher than I normally experience. This is kind of the new batch. I'm used to drinking some of the older Gyokuro. So this one's really good, very fresh, very light, a little bit of this floral characteristic. You're definitely getting these in the finish, kind of like this edamame, but it's more even like sweet peas. So like, you know, definitely steamed vegetables, steamed green vegetables, but specifically, I would say kind of peas, like sweet peas. It's really good. Yeah, definitely the floral note there, at least in the first steeping. I think that would probably go away in later steepings. Just take a look at the leaves here. I mentioned before that you know, you need some time to make sure that everything's opened up in here. But after the first brewing, the leaves are almost completely open, so they're only going to need like 20 seconds in the second steeping. So we're going to prepare a second and a third brewing of this tea. We're just going to pour the same temperature water back in. And you'll notice I'm using a much smaller teapot. You really want to go for a volume of about 150 milliliters to 200, but just kind of play around with what you're most comfortable in. So once you factor in the time it takes to pour the tea, it's really only brewing for a few seconds. Yeah, second steeping begins to drift more into the astringency. The first steeping is definitely going to be the sweetest, the most umami. And the second brewing, it's going to be greener actually in color, but it's going to be a little bit more on the kind of steamed vegetable side, a little more astringency. And that's really what I'm getting here. The first steeping has a little bit kind of this sweet corn note to it, sweet peas. Second steeping has a little bit more acidity to it, a little bit more freshness. Yeah, so with Gyokuro, I noticed the biggest drop off between the first steeping and the second steeping compared to other teas. Some other teas I actually prefer the second brewing, such as with a Fukumushicha. Gyokuro, you know, I really value that first steeping because it is the sweetest, it is the most savory. But sometimes it is nice, although I do, normally when I do multiple brewings, I kind of do it sequentially, so I'll have this one, I'll drink it completely, and then I'll go to the second one, drink it completely, but it is kind of nice to have them side by side so I can compare them. Sorry for not using another glass, otherwise we compare the color. Hopefully something I'll do next time. So there's still definitely some flavor left in the leaves. You can get a third brewing out of this, as you can see here. They still have flavor to release, but the third brewing is definitely going to be the weakest in terms of its overall strength and definitely this sweetness or this umami flavor. So if you want to try this tea yourself, it's the Gyokuro Sasahime. This is one of the more popular Gyokuro teas from Mr. Sakamoto. It's kind of got a lot going for it. It's very complex because it's made from a blend of different cultivars. So whether you're looking for a little more sweetness, a little more umami, a little bit more of this, yeah, this floral note that I'm getting with this brewing in particular. If you like that complexity, definitely go for the Sasahime. Otherwise, the Chanmusume is the most popular. It definitely has the strength that you would want from a Gyokuro. It's very sweet, it's very strong, savory. But if you want that complexity, go for something like the Sasahime or the Wakamusha. But thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this tea tasting, something a little bit different this time. compared to our usual videos, but I thought you might appreciate kind of the step-by-step guide of how to brew this tea. So hopefully something we'll be doing a lot more in the future. So thank you all for tuning in. If you have a question, please leave it in the comments. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.